We've done it, Trinity. We found him.
I hope you're right.
I don't have to hope. I know it. Am I dead? Far from it.
Oh my god, I've done the impossible. I finally found a good movie. I thought the day would never come, but it has, and it was everything I hoped it would be and much more. Sadly, this movie flew largely and almost completely under the radar. I'm talking about Seth Rogen's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem. What exactly makes this movie so good? Join me, dear viewer, as I dive deep into the sewers to find a great movie. Let me start off by saying that the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles hold a special place in my heart. I first encountered the foursome when I was 6 years old in the original cartoon debuting in the late 80s. I'd never encountered these sorts of heroes until then, having grown up with such classics as the Smurfs, G.I. Joe, Inspector Gadget, and Thundercats. So seeing something so different in the context of the modern world of New York was entirely new to me as a kid. Not to mention that I can credit learning English from the Ninja Turtles. That's right, when I came here from Argentina, the land of Lionel Messi in the early 90s, I had to learn the language. Seeing me obsessed with the Ninja Turtles, my parents bought me the Archie comic series as well as comics on tape. I listened to it non-stop. I could recite the entire thing from memory, and within about 8 weeks of me being in America, I was fluent. One of my earliest memories at the movies was seeing the first live-action Ninja Turtles movie in the theater. I was absolutely mesmerized. When my parents got me a Super Nintendo for my 10th birthday, I rented Turtles in Time and played the hell out of it, beating it several times. To say that the Ninja Turtles were a huge part of my childhood would be an understatement, but I'm sure that's the case for the vast majority of elder millennials. Enter Seth Rogen. What gets me really excited about the world as a whole is millennials coming into positions of power. We've seen a lot destroyed by past generations. Hoovering up all the wealth and leaving scraps for us is another topic for another day. Suffice it to say, I really want to see what millennials do with pop culture, and Seth Rogen does not disappoint. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem is Seth Rogen's swan song, his tribute to our collective childhoods as millennials. Mutant Mayhem closer aligns with the original Mirage Studios comic that debuted in 1984. Not as many people are familiar with the original comics, as they were a lot edgier, very indie, and extremely rare to find, making them very expensive. When the Ninja Turtles cartoon debuted in 1987, not many people had heard of them. Many expected the 1990 live-action adaptation to more closely resemble the cartoon, myself included, but it mirrored the original comics. Mutant Mayhem actually merges both mythologies, and it does so quite well. Borrowing heavily from the 2011 IDW comics, Mutant Mayhem marries past and present to create a wonderful future. In the original cartoon, for example, Baxter Stockman was a stooge of Shredder and nothing more. In the original Mirage comics, Stockman created the Mousers that gave the Turtles so much trouble. Mutant Mayhem's version of Stockman more closely resembles the IDW version of Stockman, working for the corporation that created the Turtles and Splinter. And speaking of which, another major deviation was Splinter's origin story. In both the original comics and live-action movies, Splinter was the pet rat of Hamato Yoshi in Japan, while in the original cartoon it was Yoshi that merged with a rat to become the mutant Splinter. Mutant Mayhem deviates rather sharply from this mythos by showing Splinter as a mutated rat that learned his ninja skills from watching television. It's neither good nor bad, just different, and I'm totally fine with that origin story, as it creates something new, creative, and actually pretty heartwarming. And speaking of something new, the band of villains features a wide array from the Turtles Rogues Gallery. Of course we've got Bebop and Rocksteady, but also Scumbug, Leatherhead, Ray Fillet, and my personal favorite, Mondo Gecko. We've also got Wingnut, but sadly missing his compatriot Screwloose. Genghis Frog also makes his big screen debut, but again missing his own three brothers. Missing characters isn't a big deal, as this movie is already chock full of wonderful characters, and Seth Rogen obviously has to leave something for the sequels. This brings me to what the movie ultimately sets up. If you followed the original Mirage comics, but more importantly the IDW iteration, you'll know that Krang will be a major factor going forward in Seth Rogen's films. He's heavily hinted at via the main villain of the movie, Cynthia Utrom. To the uninitiated, the Utrominons were the race of brainy evildoers originating in Dimension X, of which Krang was a member. Also, the post-credits scene teases the introduction of the Turtles' main nemesis, the Shredder. It'll be interesting to see who is cast as Shredder in the sequel, as I still can't imagine anyone other than the late, iconic James Avery from Fresh Prince of Bel-Air fame voicing the character. And speaking of voicing, my only complaint would be the casting of Micah Abbey as Donatello. His voice simply didn't match the character whatsoever. In the original cartoon and the live-action movies, Donatello is nerdy, but his voice was never pipsqueaky, so it was actually quite jarring hearing the character speak in this movie. But that's just a minor gripe, and I don't fault Micah Abbey at all. He's a fine actor that I'm sure will go on to do some great things in the future. We all have to start somewhere, and this is a fine place to start for Abbey. I also have to mention the music in the film. It fits the story and characters so well, and harkens back to the early 90s with hit songs by Blackstreet, Dr. Dre, A Tribe Called Quest, Old Dirty Bastard, Big Pun, Lauryn Hill, Busta Rhymes, and of course you couldn't have a Ninja Turtles movie without at least one reference to Vanilla Ice. The music in this film basically defined the early 90s. It just fit the film so well. Seth Rogen really captured the feel of the 90s magnificently. Oh, I almost forgot. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the animation. Wow, holy shit. This was an absolutely gorgeous film. I saw this movie with my nephew, and during the movie we turned to each other and said this was unlike anything we'd seen before. Prior to seeing it, I was completely ready to crown Across the Spider-Verse as the best animated movie of 2023, but Mutant Mayhem came out of nowhere to steal the crown from Spidey. While the Spider-Verse movies were beautifully animated in their own right, Mutant Mayhem comes out with a new style and completely new feel for animated movies. It's almost like watching a painting come to life. Correct me if I'm wrong, my dearest of viewers, but this may be the first time this style of animation was portrayed in a feature-length film. Please do let me know down below in the comments because I'd love to see any other movies with this art style. Last but not least, following in the footsteps of Tom Cruise, Seth Rogen also respects the audience by thanking them for seeing this movie. I've harped on this time and time again in my other videos. The dark age of cinema saw a lot of disrespect of the general audience, with films pandering some ideology or woke messaging, rather than giving the people what they want. Seth Rogen, I believe, recognizes the sorry state of movies today, and he did his level best to deliver what audiences wanted. He showed respect and deference to the source material by not altering the characters egregiously, and so many others have. I'm looking at you, Disney. He crafts a story that's faithful to both the comics, TV shows, and movies that have come before it, and he does this in a new and fresh style. I haven't been the biggest fan of Seth Rogen in recent times, as his movies and type of humor have fallen off largely, but he makes a triumphant return as writer and producer of Mutant Mayhem. While this movie fell largely under the radar, I think everyone should see it. It's still out in some theaters, and since it already made its debut on the high seas, it must be out somewhere on streaming. So definitely check it out. But what do you think? Has Seth Rogen done a good job with his iteration of the Ninja Turtles? Please do let me know down below in the comments. And as always, hit that like button, ring that notification bell, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next one.